Netanyahu gave a little speech and said that these the UN peacekeepers have to leave southern Lebanon, get out of the harm's way, and they have to evacuate. First of all, do you think they would actually do that? That Netanyahu could just order the UN peacekeepers to leave? I mean, that's what they're there for, right?
Exactly, that's what they're
And
there
then
for. And so it would destroy the credibility of the UN peacekeeping in general if they just turn tail and run. And so far, they've held their ground and say, no, we're not going anywhere. This is where we're, remaining at our positions here. I know they're Irish peacekeepers.
and Italian, I believe.
Okay, Italian. I think there was some, and an Indonesian was injured. Yeah, there's another. I can't remember what the other nationality was. But yeah, no, he just told them to leave, ordered them to leave. I think at least 4, maybe 5 peacekeepers have been wounded by Israeli fire so far. And it's just another just a long series of really attacks on the UN by Israel, which is just no other country in the world could get away with this.
Attacking the UN, that's like you're playing football and you decide to tackle the ref. It's unheard of. Have we had situations like this before where UN peacekeepers were attacked or killed? I mean, I'm sure there's been incidents.
Oh, sure. I know that it's happened in
Rwanda,
like Africa, but we're not there. We weren't talking about a state, but rather by guerrilla groups.
Right. It's basically bandits almost.
Yeah. So you could say the Israelis are just behaving like bandits. They certainly are, and they just don't care.
Do you think that they might actually bomb a UN?
Oh, they might. Oh, sure.
Or something?
I mean, they've done that before. I mean, this is something that didn't start on October 7th or October 8th. But because I remember, again, I've been following the Israel-Palestine conflict for decades, and this is kind of an ongoing theme. It's just generally like so many things that the IDF did in the past. It was gradual. It was spaced out over time. But occasionally they would attack, clearly, UN facilities. And then they'd always claim that it was a terrible mistake and and they would look into it and then nothing would happen. But then, several months later, the next year it would happen again and then again and again. So they have attacked UN personnel and facilities in the past, but they just really stepped it up, like everything else during Gaza. So I think over 200 UN employees, or UNRWA employees, have been killed, and a lot of their facilities and vehicles have been destroyed. And then, of course, they declared the Secretary General of the UN persona non grata.
What a move! What a crazy move!
Yeah, we can see how popular they are in the UN. Last time when Netanyahu was there, is basically the whole assembly chamber emptied. You saw people there, but they were actually Israeli supporters that have been bussed in to cheer him. But almost everybody else just left. Everybody detests them there and detests the Israeli government. It's not just Netanyahu personally. They just hate the Israelis for very good reason. I mean, they kill their people.
Right. Well, I mean, what are the implications of doing things like this? I mean, surely that constitutes, a war crime, right? I mean, like there's supposed to be some rules, right?
Right. It's a rules-based order. It's basically the U.S., the West, that makes the rules and gives the orders. It's an old joke, but it's really true. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. It's just the way things are. And the U.S., sees itself as a global hegemon, imagines itself to be virtuous. And part of its role is to protect Israel. And that's what it's doing. And so it just doesn't matter. The rules don't matter when they conflict with Western hegemony, and in particular with Israel. which is just supposed to be, is one facet of that.
Yeah, well, I think the rules-based order, the U.S. rules-based order, it's coming to an end now, right? I mean, we're alone on this.
Yeah. Well, we still have, tremendous power. We have tremendous influence even within the UN. I think it has to be waning. But, we've had, we've learned that for a lot of various of these UN agencies and organizations really have been infiltrated by the U.S. I can't remember at the moment the name of the chemical weapons agency, but that was completely corrupted by the U.S. and Western powers and used to against Syria, for example, to hide the truth about the various incidents there. So they do have, the U.S. has a lot of influence. They've worked on developing influence in the UN over the years, and they've corrupted a lot of the agencies. But, obviously there's just a hatred among the members towards Israel and by extension the U.S.
Right, that's the thing. By extension, us. That's what's so frustrating.
Right.
That Israel's dragging us through this, and we're just going along with it. But is there some hope that the international community will be able to put more pressure on Israel to end this, diplomatically, like the attempt of sanctions? I mean, France has stopped sending military aid. At least there's something. I believe Spain is doing the same thing. Countries like, I believe, Venezuela a couple of weeks ago, or I think it was Venezuela, severed ties completely with Israel. So more and more people are starting to stand up and say something, and then they realize that, hey, when I stand up and I say we're going to sever ties or stop supplying arms, there'll be a cry from the Zionist crowd. But overall, you can see them getting support for that decision.
Right.
This is that they're making the right move, and so more and more people will become brave and stand up and begin to maybe actually put some pressure on Israel, like that we can to end this.
The problem is, I mean, it's true. I know I made fun of Macron earlier, and I still do. The guy's a real flake, but he has repeated, the statements against Israel, and has, again restated that there will be no more arms shipments from France. The thing is that, like, there have been arms shipments from France to Israel, and following October 7th, but they're just a drop in the bucket. So it really doesn't make a difference. Now, it does just add to Israel's diplomatic isolation, but Israel seems not to be concerned with that. I mean, if you are concerned about diplomatic isolation, you don't, ban the Secretary General from your country. You don't attack UN peacekeepers. They just don't give a damn, right? And again, it's just the sense is that, well, we have the U.S. at our back, and that's, ironclad. And at least in the short term, and I think the medium term, they're right. The U.S. will stand by them no matter what. They've already demonstrated they can commit a genocide, and the U.S. is still standing by them, and will continue to. There may be one day, again, because we could see that the support is falling. Support for Israel's in the U.S. is falling within the younger generation, but it takes a while for a generation to replace a generation. We were talking about decades. Again, the whole process may accelerate. They may have miscalculated, but they just feel confident. It just doesn't matter. All these, if they just have the U.S., they think they can, they figure that they're invincible. Again, they may have miscalculated, but I think that's the calculation that the Israeli government has made.